In Chapter 18, you learn about revising and specifically how to revise your paragraph. So hopefully I don't go too crazy like I did with Chapter 17. So what is the difference between editing and revising? Very simply, editing, you're looking at the sentence level. You're looking at grammar, mechanics, spelling, things like that. And making sure punctuation is in the right place, capitalization, all of that. That's editing. You're looking at the tiny, tiny, tiny details, and you don't want to edit until you are completely done revising. Because if you edit and then revise, you're going to have to go and edit again. So save the editing for the very, very end, but please don't forget to do it. And that, again, that's when you look for your spelling errors. So revising is more on a paragraph and an essay level. You have to look at each paragraph to make sure all of the elements are in place. Do you have a topic sentence? Do you have transitions? Do you have appropriate development and support? Do you have focus? Do you have cohesion? Do you have coherence? Do you have unity, clarity, all of that? That's what you're looking for from paragraph to paragraph. And then for your essay as a whole, does your introduction introduce properly? Does it match the rest of your essay? Does your conclusion conclude your essay? Or is the information in each one of those paragraphs accurate? So again, revising is kind of the big picture. Editing, small. Revising, big. Revising takes more time, more effort, more looking. Whereas editing, you just kind of read through it and correct whatever you need to. So the textbook talks about 3 different types of revising, and the first is for completeness. You just want to make sure that your development is appropriate. So in each paragraph, you're going to say, did I say enough? Do I have any underdeveloped or unsupported claims? Do I have any incomplete thoughts or sentences? Where can I add some detail? Where am I too vague? That's completeness. You want to make sure that your essay has a beginning and a middle and an end, just like we talked about in the last chapter. You also want to look at your claim to support ratio. Are you making way too many claims with too little support? You want to make sure they're balanced. You probably want to have one claim to one sentence of claim, one claim sentence, whatever you want to call it, to 2 or 3 sentences of support or evidence. So you want to make sure that you're being complete there too. You don't want to just make a statement and then not support it. Okay. And then the textbook gives a couple hints on how to do that, and I think they're effective. If your paragraph length is too short, more than likely, it's not complete. So I told you in the last chapter, for the papers that you're going to be writing in college, for the most part, you're going to want to make sure that your paragraphs are at least 1/3 of a page long, if not longer. Really, I think a half a page is kind of no more, no less. It needs to be pretty much a half a page every time. But that's my opinion, and that's my experience. Because if they're shorter than that, you're going to creep closer and closer to having an incomplete paragraph that lacks development and support. If you go beyond that, it's going to hurt your focus, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So if your paragraphs are too short, you need to be aware of that. You should be only getting 2 paragraphs per page. Maybe ending one and starting one, and starting another one, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if that even made sense to you. Because I'm not saying that you're only going to have 2 paragraphs per page because they're going to be exactly a half a page. That's not going to happen. So, I don't know. Use your best judgment. I don't give my students sentence minimums or maximums because I think that's silly. It depends on how long your sentences are for the first of all. If you have short, choppy sentences and you only have 5 in a paragraph, then your paragraph is still underdeveloped. Okay? So I don't base it on sentences. I base it on lines. And really, half a page is a great mark. You want to be pretty close to that and certainly not over it. Never over it. Okay? And then look for phrases like, for example. You're not going to keep saying, for example, for example, for example. But you're going to want to look for phrases similar to that. So another example, or in addition, or further, all of those transition words are probably going to be showing support. So you want to make sure you see those. Because if you don't have enough support, your claims are going to be unsupported. And your paragraph as a whole is going to be underdeveloped. You want to revise for cohesion. What is cohesion? It's when your sentences all flow together from one to the next. That's why I harp on transitions all the time. Your textbook does too. I don't know if you've noticed, but in the chapters that focus on writing, they show you specific, like the specific types of writing, your narrative chapter and your compare-contrast chapter. They show you different types of transitions that you can use, and that's why they're so important. It ties your sentences together, and it also ties your paragraphs together. You should be transitioning from the end of one paragraph to the beginning of the next, and then you need to be transitioning from one idea to the next within your paragraph. Not every single sentence has to transition, but if you're going to change claim or change support, you need to indicate that. Otherwise, it's just choppy and yucky. Also, for cohesion, is your paragraph focused? That's why you don't want paragraphs that are too long. More than likely, you're going to start getting unfocused. You want pretty much one main point per body paragraph. If you ever stray off topic, it's hurting your cohesion. You always want everything in your body paragraph to work together for one purpose, to support one point. And that's why topic sentences are so important. If you don't have that topic sentence, you don't know what your focus is, and you don't know what your topic is and what your point is. How can you be cohesive if you don't have a topic sentence? Pretty much you can't. Also, does every sentence in your paragraph relate back to that topic sentence? If it doesn't, you don't have cohesion. Everything has to relate to the other. And lastly, is your paragraph too long? Look for that. Length really does say something about your writing. Okay, coherence. Is what you're saying making sense? Have you explained enough? It kind of works with the completeness. If you're not really complete and you're not cohesive, it's probably not going to make a whole lot of sense. So you have to look for that too. Think about your organization. Is there progression within your paragraph? Where are you going? Where have you come from? It's just because you're not writing chronologically doesn't mean that you're not moving from point A to point B. I mentioned that in chapter 17 too. This should be sounding familiar. So think about that. How are you organizing your thoughts within the paragraph? How are you organizing the paragraphs themselves in your essay? Okay, and you need to be going somewhere. Also, transitions are a huge part of this. Next, further, also, furthermore, moreover, all of that shows progression of thought. It moves from one point to the next within your paragraphs. You've learned about time and space order. Are you going chronologically? Are you moving around? Like your advertisements or something that you described. I believe we did this in this class. Oh my gosh. Now I'm having a total brain fart. You know what space order is. Also, the repetition of keywords is really helpful. The book's probably better about explaining it. But when you repeat the same idea, it's not repeating it over and over and over again, but it's showing that everything's related. Does that make sense? Kind of goes back to that introduction and conclusion that we saw that mentioned Mario in the beginning and then Mario in the end. It's the repetition of those things that make it a complete whole, and you really want that. All right, so here's an example paragraph. Sorry, I stopped to check my time. We're doing okay. So let's look at this paragraph and see if it's effective based on completeness, cohesion, and coherence. The collection and storage of DNA has proven to be beneficial in helping keep criminals off the streets and innocent people out of jail. It also helps keep children free from danger. There's your topic sentence. It's technically two, but you get the idea. That's what they're going to be talking about, okay? Effective. And you don't know it, but I can tell when this person says the collection and storage of DNA, that's what they were talking about previously. So this actually, it doesn't look like it to you because it's completely taken out of context, but they're transitioning from the previous paragraph. Okay, they were talking about the collection and storage. Now they're talking about why it's a benefit. So Megan's Law, there's your first example. Megan's Law. It's repeating that example. It's developing it. So you can tell that, ooh, there's a little bit of completeness here. So Megan's Law is accountable for letting parents blah, blah, blah. I don't want to take the time and read it to you. Pause this if you want to read it. And yes, please do that. It explained the origin of Megan's Law and what happened to the girl for which it's named. Okay. It helps keep children off. Okay, so here's what it is. Here's what it does. Bam. Further, that is a transition. It's like saying the next example I'm going to say is, but they're saying it with the word further. The Innocence Project, created in, here's the background information. The fact that they use the last names shows that repetition of idea and thought. Okay, but instead of repeating the Innocence Project again, they're using the last names instead. Okay, and then this shows that these two, I assume they're scientists, I don't know, but whoever these folks were opposed to having DNA collected, but, that's a progressive word. They realized that having it stored was reliable evidence, blah, blah, blah. They are now, there's more progression, champions of DNA fingerprinting and are doing everything in their power to free people who are falsely convicted of crimes. So I know I kind of blew through that. Hopefully you paused it and read it for yourself. If not, you really need to do that. This is a good, complete, cohesive, coherent essay because it's got transitions. It starts with a point. It stays on point. It stays focused, but it progresses from one example to the next. And it mentions how all of them are helpful in keeping kids safe and innocent people out of jail. The one thing that this might be lacking is kind of a conclusive sentence because it wraps up only on this this example, the second example they gave. But you don't have to do that every single time. That's why writing is kind of scripted, but kind of not at the same time. So if you don't have a conclusive sentence in the end for every single paragraph, that's okay. But again, this, in terms of completeness, cohesion, and coherence, this is effective. Okay, so this is what you need to be doing. And it's this red part. It's that topic sentence that is key because these examples support that. The transitions, they all work from point A to point B. So hopefully this is helpful. And when you go back and revise your essays for the final essay, this is what your paragraphs need to look like. And this is how, these are the things you need to look for: completeness, cohesion, and coherence. If you have any questions, let me know.